Okay. Hello, guys and gals. There are probably more gals because that's what we're about. Sass with class. It's 10 a.m.
Hello,
again.
Amy.
Hello, my beautiful girl, my flower. Today we were going to discuss perfectionism and how being perfect is not normal. It's not normal to be perfect. Agreed? Would
I
you say?
completely agree, but it's so hard to accept this. I don't know. We're just as human. We I don't know why. It's like maybe it's innate. We want to be perfect, or maybe some
Well,
people
it's the
don't want to be.
expectations of society too, don't you think?
I think
Excuse me.
it's really really hard. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Do you feel that you had pressure to be perfect, like growing up
Oh
and as a
God,
mom?
absolutely. Growing up, in a white affluent family with education being the core, I think the amount of pressure to be perfect and wearing your white little gloves to church and everything's so perfect on the inside and your three beautiful little girls, and but then afterwards your parents are like drunk and hitting each other or whatever. Not
Mhm.
that they were always hitting each other, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
The hypocrisy is what I think really messes with people's minds, because you're told one thing, that this is how you live, you're faithful, you're honest, you're integral, and then when there's other things coming into the picture like addiction or alcoholism or depression or whatever, it can sometimes confuse you into thinking that, oh, okay, this is what my parents say on Sunday at church, but the rest of the days a week it's not really like that. And I mean, in an ideal world we'd say everybody would follow exactly what they say all the time, but we all know that's just not true. It's not,
No,
we're never going to be perfect. But I
no.
think that this segment is crucial for women, especially. Not that men don't deal with their body image,
No,
their
but we're talking to women mainly. I mean, we're that's our clientele right
that's
now.
what
Like,
we are. We
that's
have
who we
boobs
are.
and can
Exactly.
have babies because we're women. So we're the ones going through it. Until men can give birth, well, then, you're not really going to care what we're saying, are you? But
Uh-huh.
no, it's not good, and it ends up doing more damage to ourselves than it does good, because we're constantly, I mean, like you and I have spoken about, you have to be realistic about what you're capable of doing and what your children are capable of doing.
Mhm.
Because if you put so much pressure that, like, oh, you went to Harvard or to some Ivy League school, and or you're a huge athlete when you were in high school, well, then that doesn't mean you're going to get a child that's going to be Tom Brady. You could get a Barishnikov that likes to like balance on his tippy toes, and that's a his exercise. Or it could be an artist or a musician or something. It's not living vicariously through your children and accepting and teaching them more acceptance for humankind and for themselves. Because let's face it, I mean, besides me, no one else is really perfect, don't you think?
Well, include me in that at
Oh,
least,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, come on now. We all know I do nothing wrong. But you know what I'm saying? Like, even at school, I mean, you've worked as a teacher, you've worked as
It's so
an
such a thing.
interpreter.
It's such a thing. Like and I guess from very early on of having like I got my four of my kids like in 5 years, so they were boom 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 boom, and
Yep.
at the third child I decided, you know what, I can't be early at any event or at anything, so I had to tell all my like functions or whatever. I mean, I didn't have a paying job, but I was involved in all kinds of things, or family
Oh,
meetings or
stop the paying job
reunions.
thing. That just burns my hiney. The paying job. You're raising three kids and you're taking care of a narcissistic man. So I'd say that's a freaking job. That's more than a job than what I mean. Yes, jobs are pressure. Jobs give you money. Jobs also give you pats on the back and lots of time with adults. It's different when you're home and your whole emotional being is invested in these little minds, and you have to have the patience and the energy and the flexibility and all that. So I think our government's wrong in that sense, of not giving women
Oh,
more.
that's for sure. But I mean, anyway, not to say, I mean, it was just that then I had to really look at myself. I was getting frustrated of not being on time and people saying you're late. And then all of a sudden I told everybody, all my entourage, sorry, I apologize in advance. I will do my best. I will get there if I committed together. So I'm a very committed person and a loyal person.
Oh,
Stuff happen or
absolutely.
whatever. But
Yeah,
said, but I will not, I may not, I can't be on time. And that was a liberation. And it was also accepting myself that I was not perfect. I was not perfect.
exactly.
And that
And
was
you know
okay. And it
what?
was
That's
freedom.
okay.
It was
Right.
freeing. And then I started thinking about, so my kids, I don't think ever really got to school late. So that was my big commitment. If I was driving them to school, sometimes at their high school or taking the bus
And
or
that's most
whatever.
important, really. I mean, it's more important to have them fed and rested and loved and getting to those type of things on time rather than, not that meeting with family and going to church is a frivolous opportunity or frivolous time, but, you know, that's the most important thing. It's hard enough getting all your kids
Exactly, to get
bathed, fed, dressed,
so it
you know.
and then to get back to what you said about school, then I don't know if there's some families they really it really counts to have their children at elementary school level to have 90s and 95s, and for them it's like their pride and joy. And I'm not saying, I mean, I'm a product of that, so I mean, I
Right. Your parents are
don't,
both professors, right?
my parents are professors, and
Yep.
school came easy for me, like at elementary school level and high school. But I gotta say, but still, for my children, I mean, they're all gifted in their own ways. But I did not insist for them to have 90s or 95. There was not like a notch. Like for me, like we talked about that. If you do your best, but it's this anxiety that it
Anxiety.
creates. Like I see that in grade
Absolutely.
2 last year when I
Yeah.
was teaching, and this child is crying, oh, I got
Oh.
85%, my mom is going to be so upset. I'm like, oh
And
my
how old
goodness.
is grade two for us American people? Because we have
7 years
elementary different.
old, seven
Oh my
seven
God.
8 years old, and crying,
Oh my
meltdown.
God. That's
And then
horrible.
like this anxious, I have to keep her or at recess time, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like just
Because their
breathe.
parents are going to be upset that she got an
And I
80 or an
mean,
85 instead of a 95.
I
Well,
don't
they need
know.
to check themselves.
I'm not
They
sure if
need
the
to
parent.
look in the mirror and say,
I don't
what
know if
am I doing to my 7-year-old that she's so anxious? But that's how some people grow up. They're like adrenaline junkies, and that's how they're raised because it's like, you put in all this time, all this effort, all this education, and you sacrifice till you get the highest degree that you can, and then you can do what you want with the world. And I mean, in a way, that's so cool. And I wish that I had that magic potion to make all of my kids follow that. Like, no, you have to wear Walmart sneakers because you have to just study so that you can buy yourself a pair of Adidas or a pair of Pumas. I mean, I really wasn't that good like that. But to think of the amount of pressure that we have just to be loving ourselves, right? Just to be happy with you, with your performance as just a human being, as a wife, mother, sister, daughter,
Mhm.
cousin, whatever, right? So then you have this extra amount of pressure on you that I believe it's too much on children because I feel like they're going to have enough time for stress and anxiety and the real reality of world. Let them be kids, let them play, let them learn social experiences, which are huge for life lessons. I mean, you can't just be a, Einstein, but not know how to function in the world socially,
No, it's
you
it's
know?
it's uh it's something. I don't really get it. I mean, now we're throwing the parent under the bus, and I don't know, like the thing
Right.
is, in that
Well, I'll throw them.
situation.
You don't have to throw them under the bus. I'll do it.
No, but in that situation, that the
uh,
child is afraid. Okay, so
yes.
it comes from at home, something was said, but maybe the
Right.
parent doesn't feel that way, but the perception
Right.
of the child. So maybe that's why I'm talking about it. Like it's a little bit of a tip here, like of like maybe it's
Right. Maybe
important
have,
to.
if there's people listening, they could take heed to this and say, okay, little Joey, little Johnny, little whoever, are you feeling anxious or more pressured because, daddy's so successful or mommy's so successful? Or
Mhm.
are we putting pressure on
That's
you
it.
by either our body language or our rolling of the eyes or sighs, or
Absolutely,
maybe they don't
maybe.
talk to you as much because you didn't
Exactly.
get, yeah,
Maybe, or from a sibling, an older sibling, or a cousin, you just don't know,
yep,
because children just absorb. And I think, I mean, look at social media, the pictures and the videos,
oh
and
gosh,
people
yeah.
like
Eh.
photoshopping.
Yeah, me, I know. It's like, I'm so glad that you look amazing and that you have, you know, everything's perfect in your life, because that is what causes us women, and from the early ages, which our kids are all seeing now, about how everybody's getting their lips or their cheeks or their boobs or whatever done. So they're starting younger to really try to mess with our girls' heads, because like we already don't have enough hormones and moods and all of that crap going on. We don't need any more pressure. And there's a fine line, I think, Sylvia, between being an overachiever, between that and being a perfectionist, or being, um, too hard, where you're teaching your child that you're a failure if you're not at the very top
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
whatever you're doing. And
Yeah.
I get that you want to raise kids to work hard and to flourish and to put their best efforts for it, like we said, as long as they're doing their personal best.
That's right.
60 might be the personal best for one
Yeah.
child,
And
right?
that's okay. And really,
Absolutely.
from my big experience, I mean, main thing for raising kids, one thing that I would tell every parent: read to your children and encourage reading. I did not do that enough. They were sporty. They do read, but it goes a long way, as also with
Right.
my experience of being a teacher, elementary school teacher. Like in math, they need, for problem solving, they need to read. In history, they need, or geography,
Right.
science, they need to read. And if they
But
don't,
it's harder with boys, I think, because
yeah, yes, it
having three,
does.
I mean,
It is.
isn't it? Because, and this is where I have a great tip for this, because having Caitlin be my first, and she required so much, and believe me, I didn't try to read with her, because she would have just eaten the pages and been like, I got my fiber for the day, so I'm just wonderful now. But so then with the boys, oh my God, and I put so much pressure on myself. I'd be like, oh my God, they're supposed to read this much and they have to know this story. And then they go in the morning and they take this little test and they keep moving on from there. And I was having such a hard time and feeling so guilty, like, oh my God, I can't,
Mm,
my boys, I'd be trying to read to them when they were little, and they'd be like, playing with their toes, picking their nose, jumping up and down, wanting to do other things, right? So
mhm,
finally, what I learned to do is I had them read what they were interested in.
mhm,
So if it was soccer, baseball, football, like Connor was really into Harry Potter, he read every single one of those books when he was like in first grade.
mm.
So
Wow.
I think to moms, this is another tip that we can share, is when you're putting that sort of pressure on yourself, that then um, naturally goes on to your children and your
Yeah.
family, maybe stop and reevaluate and say, is little Harry, is this his element, or maybe he's not interested in reading about this, but he'll read something else, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody is talented in some way, shape, or form, and we'd rather have our kids, yeah, we'd all like them to be rocket scientists and be making tons of money and have no issues, but is that what is happy for them? Are they doing XYZ because they're trying to make us happy?
I
Because if
think we could
they're not
all
happy,
agree here that that's an excellent tip, but we can all agree that all the parents in the world, what they want for their child is that they
always the
feel,
best.
they feel happy, like they're happy,
Exactly.
right?
Yep. And that they're
Ultimately,
happy with themselves. Like, I mean, happiness is obviously on a sliding scale. I mean, you're happy, you're satisfied, you're
yes,
either ecstatic, but like just being secure, being as confident as possible, because the world is already hard enough
yeah,
with rejection. And let's face it, the world isn't fair, life isn't fair, that's life. If you learn to accept those things at an earlier age, life will be so much better for you, right?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you learn to, like you said, you learn to say to people, hey, by the way, I'm not going to be on time. I'm doing my best. But then instead of the anxiety of trying to get them ready, trying to get out the door, feeling stressed, then worried about when you get there, someone's going to make a comment. It's better to just say, hey, this is me. This is how I roll. And I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Because
was so
otherwise
liberating.
we beat the crap out of ourselves, don't we?
So
And
those
that
are
ain't no good.
good advice. So good advice for reading, and reading the, if the child, like I remember my son, he liked to read cartoons. How do you say that?
Right. So who cares if it's cartoon? I mean, even with math, like math is such an important skill. So if you're not great, because most of us are not great at teaching our own children. Like we're
Well, because there's
so good.
emotions. There's emotions
Exactly.
related.
Right. And then we're like, oh my God, you're not listening, you're not paying attention, stop like doodling or whatever.
Yeah.
But what I started to do with my kids that weren't very math good or math good, oh yeah, they're really going to be good in school if I speak like that. But is do it with anything else. Like every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go to the candy store, anytime you go anywhere, have them count the change back to you, right?
Yeah.
Let them pay, let them figure out, okay, if I give her $1.50 and I give her $5, is that $3.50 back? Is it $4.50? You know what I mean? Like
That was
instead of
perfect.
cramming it down their throats and
Yeah.
saying, you have to be the best. I'm good at math. You have to be the best at math. If you want to be a doctor, you have to be in this level. I get it, and I'm impressed in families that have these type of kids that are like little robots that come out and like, they gave birth and they're already in their little Princeton suits. You know what I mean? And they're ready to walk out. They're like have little briefcases, and they're like, okay, mom, let's talk about the stock market this morning. And you're just like, oh, fun, fun, fun. Who brought in the fun guy? But it's like all about learning
Yeah,
to realize that we're not perfect and the people that love us are not going to judge us. And if they are concerned about something, they're going to offer a helping hand or say, don't worry about it. Get here when you can. Because most important is that you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your family and that you're not putting any more stigma on yourself or self-doubt about you're not doing this right or you can't do that right or all the freaking
absolutely.
comparisons. you know
Absolutely.
we're
And
not Mrs. Cleaver, we ain't June Cleaver, and just accept it and be thankful so that you just count every blessing that you have every day. Say, instead of saying, oh God, I didn't get there in time, oh God, I didn't do this, I didn't feed them carrots in their dinner so they didn't get beta carotene. No, just say, wow, we had a great day doing this. And little Johnny, he learned to read 2 pages because it was about something he's interested in, and let the rest of the world do what they want to do with no judgment.
that's
Right.
right. So well said, Amy.
Well,
So
aren't
well
I just
said.
I'm just,
So
I
let's
just,
be perfect at being imperfect and
exactly.
just
We're perfectly
accepting
imperfect. Yep. That's
perfectly
the way it is.
imperfect and
Yep.
accepting that us and ourselves and our children are like that,
Yep.
and they will be imperfect in their own way, maybe not the same way we would like them to be, but that's another
That's their
topic,
journey.
another story. But this
Yeah.
all our advice. So
So
bye for
tune
now.
in. Exactly.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.